What if the reason you keep on stalling is not because you lack purpose, but because one version of you is terrified of another version of you that is trying to build and expand you? Welcome to the Strategy Table. I'm your host, Artrice Scott, and I am here to challenge you today in the way you've been thinking about purpose. When you feel frustrated, when your actions don't match your drive, you likely land on the same conclusion as everyone else. I just haven't found my purpose yet. So I'm going to keep it real with you today. You do not have a purpose problem. You have a narrative problem. Your narrative is the story your nervous system believes about who you are. It tells you what is safe, it tells you what is possible, and what happens when you're seen. So you're not lazy, you're not failing at life, you're not the only one who's searching for a purpose. You're acting from a version of your narrative that was trained to keep you safe. This becomes a problem when you're trying to expand, when you want to operate in your own zone. You get an opportunity to move forward. You know what you want to do. You've even prepared for it. But right before you execute, your body tightens. Your mind starts negotiating. And suddenly you got to tell yourself, maybe this is not the right time. That is a narrative boundary, paralyzing you. Because at that exact moment of execution, your nervous system no longer feels safe. It doesn't trust where you're trying to take it. So you have to ask, why does this boundary exist if it's going to hold me back? This isn't a discipline or motivational issue. Motivation cannot fix a narrative that's rooted in survival. This eternal war, this conflict that is causing you to question your identity, stall your execution, and constantly remind you of your limits. The conflict is between the identity that protects you and the identity required to carry your future. Every time you move towards your purpose, these two versions of you compete for authority. One is asking, how do I feel safe? The other is asking, how do I grow? And this is the complicated part of it, right? The protector rarely announces itself as fear. The one that want to stay safe, it speaks the language of logic. It doesn't say I'm terrified. It says be realistic. Wait for better timing or you need more credentials. It presents itself as an ally trying to safeguard your future, not destroy it. It is trying to prevent you from re experiencing the pain of being rejected, ignored, or even exposed. You aren't fighting an enemy. You are renegotiating with a protector that questions your capacity, not your intent. But if you do not take authority over this protector, the cost of losing the narrative war is not just missed opportunities. It is a identity fragmentation that happens. You start becoming someone who cannot trust themselves. You start making promises to yourself and you break them. You receive clarity and then you abandon it. You get a vision and then you start to negotiate it down until it feels safe enough to either execute or even ignore. Eventually, you don't just doubt the opportunities, you start doubting your capacity, you start doubting yourself. I know this feeling very well. I'm a big thinker, a big dreamer, a visionary. There was a point when I thought I just needed a few more things in place to start my food truck. I kept telling myself my circumstances were the issue, when the real issue was how I interpreted the risk and the sacrifice that it would take day by day. Because of that, I could not execute. I was paralyzed internally. Fear gripped me. The narrative that played in my head sounded like this: no one in your family has ever started a business. No one's ever made six figures. So high goal. You have kids to feed. You're going to be out here taking risk. You really be doing too much. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. That's what the protector sounds like. I knew what I wanted to do. The enclosed trailer that I needed to convert was sitting right there in my driveway. But instead of executing the strategy, I kept editing it. I kept delaying it, saying all great things take time. It was fear dressed as discernment and patience. Until finally one day, I got tired of negotiating with that narrative. I walked in the health department one day after work. I put my plans on the desk at the health department, and I said, hey, I need somebody to tell me how to get a permit, how to get this food truck up and running. And then guess what? Frostboss 2.0 was live in 45 days. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a baker. I baked in my home. And then I decided to get a food truck, and I wanted to make milkshakes and have cake in a jar. And so that was my business. But back to this. My problem wasn't direction in that moment, in that situation. It was the inconsistency in my narrative. The wrong version of me kept taking authority at the moment of execution. And because of that, it stalled. That truck sat outside my house for 6 months, long months, and I didn't touch it. And when I finally executed the plan, it was less than 2 months. Can you imagine waiting 6 months for something that was literally going to take you 45 days? Yeah, that's what the protector would do. And this shift has to happen within you. The narrative war is not just about what you believe, it is about which version of you has authority in the moment of execution. That version of you that needs that power and authority is not confused. It isn't waiting for perfect confidence. It's simply asking for command. But right now, you have the pawns running the strategy board. You are protecting narratives that were designed, your protective narratives that were designed to keep you safe is running the board. They weren't designed to facilitate your expansion. When they take the lead, the queen remains trapped. Everything slows down. Everything stalls. If the protectors don't move, the queen can't move. But when you shift your narrative and you shift your authority to the version of you designed for growth, guess what happens? You expand. Everything changes. The queen is back in motion. You move freely. Strategy replaces paralysis. And here's the key. You want to know the pawns don't disappear. They become strategic. They support the movement. Instead of blocking your capacity to expand, they start operating in a way where you can expand. They are strategic pieces. They are needed. But the key is that you cannot keep allowing them to dictate whether you leave the back of the board or not. You have to demand space. You have to demand that the strategy that they play supports you, not hold you back. That's the key. So how do we get the queen in motion? You have to disrupt the narrative. You have to disrupt the narrative boundary the moment it appears. You must, in that moment, take back authority precisely where your execution begins to break. Here's a strategy you're going to start using in real life, in real time. This is what I want you to do, right? Because here at the strategy table, we are not just going to think about how to move. We are all about taking action. One, you're going to name the authority. When you are about to take a risk or simply be seen, when you're trying to move forward, when action actually matters, you're going to ask yourself, what narrative is playing out? You must identify the narrative before you can dismantle it. So step one is name the authority. Name who is in authority. Step two, you're going to locate the friction point. Where are you on the board? You're going to identify the exact moment your execution breaks. In what situation do your execution breaks? Is it when you're writing the vision? Is it the launch? Is it the follow-up? The goal here is to pinpoint the specific situation where you tend to retreat. So again, step two is to locate the friction point. Pinpoint the situation where you tend to retreat. Okay? Step three, you're going to reclaim authority. Reclaim in real time. This is the most critical step. And the reason it's the most critical step, because if you miss this step, you're going to constantly reinforce the wrong narrative. Do not wait for reflection. You must interpret the hesitation as it happened. As it happens, you're going to go in. You're going to be like, hold up, wait. And then you're going to step back and you're going to say, no, I'm safe. I'm okay. I can move forward. This isn't going to hurt me. Because if you don't interrupt it, again, you're going to reinforce the protector's stance that he's right, that this is what you need, that this is something that can hurt you and something that can harm you. So I challenge you to stop asking yourself, what is my purpose? And start asking, which version of me is currently in control? Because your purpose is not something absent from you. It's not something you actually gonna go out and find. It's not something you have to seek. It's not absent. It has been consistently overwritten in real time by a version of you that does not trust where you're going. And until you change that, your execution will continue to break, no matter how much you desire to know what your purpose is. Because purpose doesn't respond to desire, purpose responds to movement. It responds to action, it responds to strategy. Purpose requires movement in every area because purpose is going to require more from you. So if you're not able to expand your capacity, it's not going to show up for you. So I have a bonus for you. And let me grab this. I have a bonus for you. I call these the strategic protocols, right? And I want you to be able to navigate in real time how to respond, right? I want you to use these three strategic protocols to restore order every time the protector shows up, right? When the safety narrative triggers, I want you to say, I'm safe to be seen. My growth is not a threat to my existence. Again, when the safety, right? When you feel like your safety's been threatened, you say, my growth is not a threat to my existence. What I'm doing is about to grow me. When execution friction triggers, when you can't just press the button, when you can't go, when you stall, recognize this is a narrative boundary and I can move through it. And you remind yourself, I can move through this. The strategy is ready. I'm capable. When you need to shift identity narratives, you tell yourself, the visionary is at the table. I'm the architect of this table. This vision leads, the protector you support. These aren't just statements. These are decisions that you're going to make each and every time. If you don't do it each and every time, it shows up. And I'm not asking you to take your whole day. One moment, and then you find your rhythm and you find your consistency. Because this is how you interrupt the pattern and return authority to the version of you that can actually carry out your future. So, this is where the strategy begins with those protocols, with those 3 strategies that I provided for you. So, for a guide on how to track these moments and reclaim your authority, head to avsstrategytable.com to download these protocols, to download this strategy, right? And while you're there, if you're ready to share your findings, if you're ready to share anything about what you've learned, leave a comment. I want to see what you're uncovering. I want to see where you are. So thank you for joining me for this session at the strategy table. I'm your host, Artrice Scott, and I'll see you in the next episode. Till next time, real life, real stories, real strategies.